Hello everybody, and in this video I'll be teaching you the basics of Scratch, the block coding website where you can program a lot of cool games. There's pretty much infinite possibilities what you can do without having to learn the complicated stuff of real life coding. This video will mainly be introductory. We'll be going over the move motion blocks, which we will use to get our Scratch cat moving. I've been doing Scratch for 5 years. I have over 3,000 followers and 600,000 views on my project. So I'm pretty experienced. However, I haven't actually been that active lately because I've been doing YouTube on my other channel. But yeah, let's just get started. So when you okay, let's just assume that you know nothing about Scratch. If you know some things, maybe skip ahead a little or watch one of my later videos if I've released it yet. But basically, when you run a program, the primary block you want is when flag clicked. Now, as you can see, there's all these different sections. You're gonna go to event, and you're gonna want to drag a when flag clicked onto the code. This is where your code is, and basically, with this when flag clicked, we can initialize code. How that works is we can actually whatever we put under here just gets run, and we can put blocks like move 10 steps, and we can give it all these commands to do when the flag is clicked. So basically, this cat sprite right here, it does these commands whenever the flag is clicked, which is the command that's usually used to initialize the program. So with this when flag clicked, let's just do change x by 10. This is basically what this does is it makes the x value change by 10, and as you can see, the Scratch cat goes to the right every single time. Excuse me, it moves instantaneously to the right because it directly changes the x by 10. There's no movement in between. It just directly changes the value by 10. And yeah, it's pretty much impossible to achieve non-instantaneous movement unless you're using the guild block, which I'll talk about later. But yeah, anything you see, it's like a character's moving, it's all just teleporting at really slow rates. Okay, so now I'll be explaining X and Y values to you real quick, which is what I believe is the fundamental thing you have to learn in Scratch before you really get programming. So I'm just going to draw this coordinate plane for you guys. It may not make sense at the start if you don't really understand that much math. But, okay, I'm also going to set this to 0, 0 real quick, just to reset this. Okay, so now, basically, this vertical line, I'll color it different. We're going to call that the x-axis. And basically what it does is, it's how far, the Scratch cat is. And I'm just going to name this negative, so let's just imagine a bar for now. This is negative 240. Actually, let's just go with 0 for now. That might be easier to understand. So if we go 0, I'm having trouble dragging this. Yeah. Okay, so let's just assume this. Okay, so this bottom location right here, anything below pretty much at the y value of the 0, which is the same height as the 0, is going to be y equals 0. And now at the center we have y equals 1. And here we have y equals 2. So as you can see, if the Scratch cat, if we want to move it to y equals 1, then it's about here. Y equals 2 is about here. So as you can see, as it goes vertical, it's going up. And as it drops lower, it's going down. So that's pretty much the positioning. This might not make sense, but once we start using some motion blocks, it will make a lot of sense. Same thing with the horizontal section. Let's just call this 0, this 1, and this 2. So as you can see, if we put the Scratch cat here, it's about position 0, position 1, position 2, and it increases towards the horizontal. Now, I'm just going to remove this. This is pretty much the same way the x-axis actually works, except there is an exception. So if we plot the 0, 0 point, it's kind of like a coordinate plane. Hopefully you understand coordinate planes. If you don't worry. You don't have to be that good understanding it, but I do prefer that you have a basic understanding. So this red dot right over here is the 0, 0 point. And in Scratch, it actually works a little differently. So towards here, it's going to increase, right? And the maximum value over here is actually 240. So as you can see, this is 0, but we can set this to 100. And this would move right all the way to a 100 position. It's somewhere like here. And it can also move left to negative 240. the same logic is basically true for the and by the way, negative 240 is pretty much the edge of the screen. Same logic is true for the y values, except for the y values, as you can see, the screen is actually like it's not as tall as it is wide. So for y values, you're actually only gonna have to get up to 180 and negative 180. And basically, this point is negative 180, this point is 240, this point is negative 240, this point is 180. And basically, each point you give on this graph would have a x and y value, how tall something is, or its difference from 0, and how much its horizontal is. Oh, not difference from 0, but like how much it's going. And basically, let's just say this point, you might be wondering, well, this point, if 180 is up here and 240 is here, then this point would be given by the x coordinate 180, 240. So let's actually try that. I'm going to put like a big circle right here. And if we move this 240, you don't have to really know that much about this yet. As you can see, it's right in the corner. This would be at about 240, negative 180, as you can see, negative 180, 240. And if you put it somewhere here, it would be like halfway to negative 180 from 0, which is negative 90, halfway to 240, which is 120. And of course, these values aren't exact. So that's basically positioning x and y. And as you can see, when we're changing x by 10, we're changing our x position by 10, which increases it and makes it move towards this direction. Same thing, we can change the y value by 10 and it go up horizontally. If we try doing a negative 10, it go down. And we can use the set method to directly set it to value. As you can see right now, our x value is 52. We can set this to 100, which would make it move slightly towards here. If we set it to negative 100, we can move it towards here. And by the way, these are places that basically shortcuts for setting the properties on your sprite. They're actually not that used that much in initializing programs, but I'm just using this because it's easier to demonstrate. So hopefully you understand that. Now I'm going to move on to the go-to block, which basically, let's just combine x, y. So if we set x to 100, set y to negative 100, the go-to block is doing the same thing. It's setting x to a number and y to a number. It's giving, okay, basically it's passing in the object. It's telling the object to go here and go to this x and y value whenever you initialize the code. So let's look. If we want to set this, right, it go here. And it's the same thing. We're basically just doing the same thing, but it's like kind of shortcut, turning two blocks into one. So yeah, that's basically how the go-to and the positioning work. Next, we're going to go into directioning, which is also really important to understand. Hopefully, you understand some things about positioning. Basically, that's how like you know where something is on the screen and how you're going to interact with it. And positioning becomes really important when you want to create interactive games. Okay, so now for directioning. So direction is a lot more complicated, so please bear with me. It might be hard to understand at first. So I'm just going to draw this like circle right here. And I'm going to draw a bigger circle. I'm going to set outline only so that it's like this. And basically, let's just say the red circle in the center is my sprite. So basically now we're going to have 240. I mean, excuse me, not 240. I'm going to draw 4 lines. And these actually each represent a distinct angle. This is going to be 90. This is 180. This is negative 90. And this is 0. So don't worry if you don't understand that. I'm about to explain it. So basically, each of these is the certain angle something can face. I'm just going to put this gotcha cat in the center. And as you can see here, his direction is 90 degrees. If we want him to turn 15 degrees, then he's actually going to increase his degrees by 15. Turning, basically, just think about it. It's pretty easy to understand. He's just turning. And as you can see, the direction is 105, which makes him point over here. And as you can see, 105 is kind of between 90 and 180, which makes him point towards the direction 105. If we initialize this again, it's 120. And we can initialize it all the way to 180, in which it points straight downwards. So hopefully you understood that. Basically, for positives, or just, if we use this, you're just churning. You're turning the opposite way. Basically, decreasing a number of degrees by using this block, and yeah, basically it makes your sprite turn. And you may be wondering, wait a sec, how does Scratch know what way my Scratch cat is facing? Well, actually, just let me tell you, it doesn't know what way. It just knows that this way is 90 degrees. This arrow right here, this is 90 degrees, and basically it's gonna make the Scratch cat. It's gonna make the sprite point towards the arrow, and you can change the direction and make this arrow point towards different direction. As you can see, if we just kept initializing this, then the arrow is basically where it's pointing towards. It's gonna be like, oh, I'm pointing towards here, and the Scratch cat, it's kind of just like rotating around the axis to point towards the given direction. It actually gets a lot more confusing when it's negative 125. So if we look at this again, okay, 175, right? Negative 170. So this is the part where it gets kind of confusing. So from 0 to 180, the degrees actually increases positively, and from 0 to 180, it actually decreases kind of. So this would be 0, and this would be like negative 45. This would be negative 90. This would be negative 135, which is where this is about 135. This is 180, and if you take one less from here, this position would be or towards this direction, it would be about 170 degrees. This would be negative 170 degrees. So it's weird to think about. I don't know why they didn't just do 0 to 360 to make it consistent. But yeah, but for now, don't worry about too much of this. We're just going to be concerned about the position. And as you can see, basically what this is doing is you're just turning the degrees, and you can do that. Okay, now this is where the move 10 steps come in. This block makes you move 10 steps, which is a certain unit that's given by the sine and cosine of the x and y values, which you don't need to worry about, just know it's a certain unit. And yeah, you can use this to make your sprite move towards a certain direction. So I'm gonna take away this turn, and then as you can see, it's moving towards the arrow where it's pointing towards. It's moving towards this direction. If we changed it, then it would start moving towards this direction. And yeah, that's basically what move steps does. And if we set it to exactly 90 degrees, actually, it moves it towards the, it actually just basically increases your x value, which is like, yeah, that's literally what it does if it's at 9 degrees. And at 180, it just decreases your y value. And same but the opposite for negative 90 and 0. That's basically what this move 10 step block does. It's pretty helpful when you're concerned with a certain direction or something. Now, yeah, so that's the move steps thing. There's also a cool block called if on edge bounce. And basically what this does is if you bounce on an edge, then you're gonna get deflected and your direction is gonna change, and you're gonna keep bouncing, which also can create some pretty cool effects. Now, I know I'm spamming flag a lot. I'm not going to go into loops in this video. It's just about simple motion. And if you look, we can actually point towards the mouse pointer. The arrow is going to try finding my mouse pointer, which is this cursor thing I have here. And it's going to get the X and Y position. It's going to try pointing towards here. So, as you can see, it's pointing directly towards my mouse pointer. And if I initialize it here, you can actually initialize it just by pressing the block of code. It's pointing towards this direction, which you can actually use to point towards other sprites, but we haven't gotten there yet. We can use the guild, which is basically the same thing as goto, except it creates kind of like a non-instantaneous change, so it doesn't instantly just go there. As you can see, it slowly glides there. The higher this seconds value is, the longer it's going to take to actually move to that place, which decreases the speed. It can be useful for making guilds. You can also use change X and Y, but yeah, just wanted to point that out. And that's basically all you need to know about the motions. Now let's start the summary. So in this video, you learned that we can use change X by 10 to increase the X value by 10, which is given by the horizontal. Remember that 0, 0 is somewhere around the center of the screen. 240 is the max, and if we keep increasing the X value, we'll approach 240 by continuously increasing the X value. If we decrease the X value, if we're at 240, we're actually going to go towards 0 but once we're at 0, we're going to go towards negative to negative 240. If we increase the y value, we're going to go towards 180. If we decrease the y value, we're going to go towards negative 180. But that's not too important to know right now. A lot of beginner programs don't have any idea how x and y values work. But just know that we can change x by 10 by using the change x by 10 block, which would move it towards the right. If we use negative 10, we can move it towards the left. If we use change y by 10, we can move it to the up, and negative 10, move it down. And we can use move 10 steps to move it towards the direction it's pointing. We can use some turn commands to make it turn. We can use the point in direction to make it point in a specific direction if you understand how the direction works, but you don't actually need to. We can use it point towards something. We can also make it bounce if it touches the edge. This basically just runs whenever the code is here, if you're wondering how it works. So basically, how this program works is when flag clicked, it moves 10 steps, and then it checks, oh, am I on the edge? Well, if I'm on the edge, let's bounce and turn it and go. So hopefully this video is helpful. This is basic intro to motion blocks. In the next video, I'll be going over some loops and how we can start creating basic programs. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye.